What do you make of this $1.7 billion fund for
bad news? We're going to try to kill it.
Are we looking at a GOP revolt brewing over Trump's anti-weaponization fund?
I will tell you, my first reaction was this doesn't pass the smell test.
It sends a signal, hey, go breach the Capitol, destroy the building, assault police officers, and you may even get compensated for someday. That's absurd.
Every policy issue that I look at it through the lens of what impact is this going to have on affordability.
And you think this weaponization fund is a waste of taxpayer dollars?
I think that would be putting it mildly.
So you want to stop it?
Oh, 100%.
I think if you said to the American taxpayer that there is a horrible wrong committed by your government, and now you can apply and you can have your lawyer's fees back, you can be compensated for what you lost financially, what American would say, oh my gosh, that's terrible?
My next source tonight is Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, a Republican who has been outspoken about opposing this new fund. Congressman, do you agree with the acting attorney general there that this is how Americans want their taxpayer dollars to be spent?
I do not, Caitlin. Every dime that we spend ought to be going to, and especially with people in mind, over half of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck. That's got to be at the forefront of every single House and Senate member's mind with every dime that we appropriate. So for that and many other reasons, I am completely objecting to this, and I'm going to do everything I can to fight it.
Did anything that Todd Blanche said about this fund in that interview with Paula reassure you?
No. So first and foremost, Caitlin, the executive branch does not have any money in its own right. Every dime they have is appropriated by Congress. So I sent a letter to Mr. Blanche today posing some very basic questions. He's got a June 1st deadline to get me the answers of where this money is coming from. Obviously, it was appropriated to DOJ as part of an appropriations bill. We want to know what account that money currently resides in. Where is he pulling it from? What authority they have to do this. We'll give them a chance to answer. But this is a debate that needs to be had and will be had, Caitlin, on the floor of the House, and it will be voted on. This is not a unilateral executive decision. If you're dealing with appropriated money, that's got to come through us.
What happens if the deputy or if the acting attorney general doesn't respond to your letter?
Well, there's going to be consequences. We need to unpack. The reason why we asked him questions is we need to unpack what the genesis of this funding is so that we know how to go about resolving this, right? I mean, depending on what that answer is going to depend on what we can do, because we're trying to figure out what our jurisdictional ability is under Article 1 authority and where Article 1 authority ends and Article 2 authority begins. But we need the answers to some basic questions, which is kind of the point of the problem here, is that we don't even know the answers to those questions. So we're going to get them, and if we don't, we'll deal with it either in this year's appropriations or in remedial legislation, which my team is working on right now.
He says that they are being transparent, that this is fake outrage because nothing has happened yet and the commissioners have not been named. Do you think that's why people are outraged about this fund?
Well, listen, anytime you come up with an idea, you got to socialize it with people that are decision makers, particularly in the legislative branch. And I think part of the problem is, we see these stories generally breaking out of the news media without, any kind of detail. Constituents get rightly concerned, and then we respond to our constituents' concern. That's our job, is to represent the people back home. I can tell you the people that I represent, very independent-minded people in Bucks and Montgomery counties in Pennsylvania. They want me to look into this, and I'm going to, and we're gonna fight hard against it. And I'm very confident, Caitlin, we have the wherewithal on our team to break this down, to get to the root of and the genesis of where this funding is coming from, and we'll come up with a game plan.
Senator Bill Cassidy over in the Senate came out against this tonight, also criticizing it for similar reasons that you criticized it for, talking about, people can't afford gas right now or struggling to make ends meet, and this is what the DOJ is spending money on. You're the first Republican that I've seen that formally went to the DOJ with your letter demanding answers from Todd Blanche. But are there other Republican lawmakers that you've spoken with who agree with you?
Well, I'm a lifelong FBI agent and federal prosecutor, and I'm going to take the lead on this, and I'm recruiting other colleagues of mine I've spoken to several of them on the House floor. They want to see what we're putting together legislatively. And yes, there is quite a bit of interest on both sides of the aisle, quite frankly. They approached me on the House floor today.
If you could get something passed on this in the House and in the Senate, and that's an if, the president would have to sign it. And so what would you do then?
Well, the backstop, that's a great question. The backstop is always appropriations, which we're in appropriation season now. We're going to have to pass a DOJ appropriations bill in short order. So we're going to factor that into how we approach that, right? I mean, these are, the brilliance of our founders is they set up a system of government where all three branches are independent constitutional checks on the other, and each have authorities that the other doesn't. We're going to use our Article 1 authority to make sure that we are providing a check that the American people want us to do on things like this.
Yeah.
These are taxpayer dollars. We have half of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Every dime we spend out of the federal treasury ought to be very mindful with those people in mind, right? And we have to have priorities. Budgets are a set of priorities of what's important. A lot of times you have a lot of important things. You have to make tough choices. But that all factors into the analysis here.
One thing that, even just as a member of Congress, as a Republican, as a person, the administration won't rule out is just saying that people who beat up cops that day, of which there are videos. The vice president yesterday was saying, well, maybe they didn't get a fair hearing or a fair court case. There's videos of the people who beat up the cops that you can watch that was used to convict them by a jury of their peers. Does it make sense to you why they won't just rule it out for the people who were literally beating up law enforcement?
No, it should be an easy question to answer. I don't know why they're having such difficulty answering it. I can answer it. Not a dime should go to them. Not a single dime.
Joining me now in the group chat, Elena Schneider, national political reporter from Notice, Mike Dubke, former Trump White House communications director, and Megan Hayes, former Biden White House director of message planning. I want to start with you, Mike, because we're talking about these Republicans who are pushing back. What do you think it is about this reparations fund that they are somehow feeling confident they can push back on publicly?
Well, they must feel like they have the votes. Bottom line, I don't see any of these folks stepping out if they don't think in the House, with the slim margins. If they don't have the votes, I don't see them coming forward on this.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Especially after these primaries earlier in the week.
Well, yes.
Right, where the
especially
message was sent that Trump can...
A very clear message was sent.
And yet, here we are in the middle of the week.
We are, but these are the primaries that are at the end of primary season. So a number of these lawmakers have already had filing deadlines pass, or the primaries happen. So we can get that out of the way. The other part of this is, and the part that wasn't mentioned in the lead up, is this get out of jail free card for Trump and the Trump family with the IRS. I think that when that was released, that news was released, I think that's when you saw a number.
And for people to know, this was an addendum to the agreement that had never been filed with a judge or Congress that said, thou shall not go back and look at Trump-related tax audits.
Or family in perpetuity. And that is when the brave souls in Congress stood up.
Let's talk about one of those souls, okay, Fitzpatrick, because he actually, I think, had an uncontested primary. And Trump was saying about him, he likes voting against Trump, and you know what happens with that. It doesn't work out well. Here is what Fitzpatrick had to say when he was asked about this last night.
I've been primaried 5 times from the right.
But if he pours millions of dollars into someone else?
Listen, anybody can do what they want. It's not going to change how I conduct myself. I believe in the institution. I believe in democracy. I believe in giving people a voice. And, that's the way I've always felt.
So a little hard to hear there, but he says, I've been primaried 5 times from the right. He already feels like, look, I've made it through. He feels confident. But to Mike's point, can they stop any of this?
Well, look, Brian Fitzpatrick is right. He's representing a district that Kamala Harris won in 2024. He is one of the few Republicans who can win that district. So, and he, as you pointed out, already passed through his primary process, which happened on Tuesday. So there's not much of a threat to his political future imminently. But I think it's important to note, too, that it's not just the primaries that we saw, Trump's grip on the Republican Party here. It also left behind a lot of quasi-lame duck senators and members of Congress, be it those who were redistricted out of their seats seats because of redistricting in the House, or you've got Senator Cornyn, whose runoff is next Tuesday, who was, Trump endorsed against.
Yeah, or Massey, who was like, I've got 7 months left, guys.
Exactly.
YOLO.
There's a much thinner majority here in which to be able to rally these votes. So there's a real possibility here that appropriators could assert some control.
Here's what Democrats are doing. I called it reparations. Trump calls it anti-weaponization. Democrats call it a slush fund. And Congressman Jamie Raskin plans to introduce a bill called the No Taxpayer-Funded Settlement Slush Funds Act of 2026. Here's how he explained it to Caitlin Collins last night.
We're going to shut down right now this so-called anti-weaponization fund. We're not appropriating money for that. You can't spend 1 cent on it. And if you try to get around it by ripping off the judgment fund in other ways, we're going to specifically prohibit any money from going from the judgment fund directly to the president, the vice president, other members of the cabinet, other political officials and their families. You just can't do that.
There's a couple of ways I hear this being talked about, which is, hey, maybe the Biden should sign up for it. You know what I mean? Or this legislative method. Talk about the different strategies here.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who got hauled up in front of the oversight who had to pay for their own legal fees from the Biden administration. That was about the auto pen, which was complete nonsense. They're not going to be able to get that either. So this is just more ways that Donald Trump is corrupt. He's just showing the American people what he values, and that is making himself and his family more enriched off the taxpayers. That almost $1.8 billion could go to health care. It could go to the SNAP benefits they cut or the Medicaid benefits that they cut. I think that the American people are just tired of seeing Donald Trump being rich.
Because there's so much money flowing in so many directions. And I have to be honest, I've been surprised at why this particular $1 billion has caught the mainstream imagination. I mean, even when you started talking about the audits, it's like people have been complaining about going after his taxes for a long time. Republicans have been saying, stop going on that fishing expedition. And now somehow this agreement has pissed off a lot of people.
A couple of things here. One, and we'll get into the politics in a second, I think it's very different about a fishing expedition versus a get out of jail free card. I mean, that was a really bright line. On this, there is precedent for this type of fund, for whistleblowers and others. So this, again, all of this
ones that have gone through Congress. Now, major difference. They went to Congress.
But the Raskin thing here that really bugs me, and this is, I'm just stepping back here. Jamie Raskin is the worst person the Democrats, if they really want to kill this, could put forward. He politicizes this even more, and he's doing that on purpose because this is a great deal for him. He can trash Trump all he wants to. Let Fitzpatrick, let the other Republicans kill this the way that we've seen them talk about.